Hi everyone, this is Art Smalley, President of Art of Lean Incorporated, and today on behalf of the Lean Enterprise Institute, I have another short video clip for you. Previously, in the last video, we covered the concept of Muda, and Mudi, three forms of inefficiency that exist in typically any process. And today we're going to take a deeper dive into the first of those, the topic of Muda, or waste. This will be a basic version, and I'll have a more advanced version, some criticisms of it afterwards. But first, let's go through the basic version with one person, one machine, 7 forms of waste. Stick around, I think you'll enjoy it. Let's dive into the topic of waste a little bit. And as I mentioned before, this is not a pure Toyota concept. You can find topics about waste even in the writings of Henry Ford in the 1920s, for example. And this specific concept came into Toyota in the 1950s via the TWI Job Methods course. And in that course, it had the phrase elimination of unnecessary details and the framework ECRS, which stands for eliminate, combine, rearrange, and simplify. Toyota took that framework and built upon it. One of the ways they built upon it was this chart, which I'll put up now, and it shows at the center motion. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, where we were primarily talking about human motion, but of course it does apply to machine motion in other instances as well. Around that motion is work that we perform. And some of that work is true value add for the customer, what they pay for, what they value and require. And there's waste. And in that waste, there's the distinction between what we call pure waste, the obvious and pure waste, which you want to go after first, and then incidental waste in the process, which are some going to be required in the short term just due to the nature of the process. Like some movement is required, some transportation is required, some inventory is required, et cetera, et cetera. And here's a pretty easy way to kind of show that, I think. So here we have a linkage. Let's call this a linkage. It's a plate with 4 holes in it, 2 bolts and 2 nuts. And let's say the requirement is that we tighten these nuts down. We assemble and tighten the nuts down on this linkage, okay? And I can be spinning this nut and tightening it down, and it looks initially to be value add. But in reality, only the last quarter turn of that nut, when we reach a specified torque, is value add, what the customer requires. Everything leading up to that is some form of waste. Now there's the pure waste, the 7 types we'll talk about, which are the most egregious. But even in a good process, there's incidental waste, in the current state at least. Because I'm spinning this, tightening it down, but you can argue all those spins are also waste. Incidental waste in the current process that cannot be eliminated, not easily. And then the final value add is that last quarter turn. And you want to always look for this distinction between the type 1 and type 2, the pure and the incidental. The pure waste is generally easier to get and go after first. The incidental waste sometimes a little harder in the current state, and you live with it for a while until you come up with a better solution. But you don't have to live, in this case, with the nut and bolt solution space, right? This could be welded, this could be riveted, this could be snapped on somehow. And maybe those solutions are better and have less waste in them. But they also come at a cost, right? And you have to weigh the cost and benefits of doing something like that. So generally, there's no reason you can't go after the pure wastes right away. Sometimes the incidental wastes take a little bit longer thinking to justify and implement. But first off, think about that important intellectual distinction between motion and work, okay? And then the types of value add, pure waste, and incidental waste, which reside in every process.